Hello everyone, I'm DC. Stage 4 cancer smashed my body and my life twice in 2 years. I did 3 years of various chemotherapy and radiation treatments. So today we're unpacking a question that haunts many cancer survivors. Why does low energy stick around for years after chemotherapy? Now, if you've been through the gauntlet of chemotherapy yourself, or you're supporting someone who has, then you'll know that it's not just a I'm tired sort of feeling, it's a relentless, stubborn exhaustion. I've dived into the science, the studies, the mechanisms, and other survivors' insights. And I've narrowed it down to these top reasons. These are real, documented conditions that last many years after treatment, and many of them last the rest of your life. CRF, cancer-related fatigue, is one of them. Hormonal shifts, nutritional deficiencies, but there are reasons for these nutritional deficiencies. It's not just about your diet. And deconditioning. And these are just the common ones. There are many, many more reasons why you have fatigue that lasts you years later after treatment. So let's dive into why and maybe how to feel a little bit better. Effects of chemotherapy on the body. Okay, number one reason for fatigue, cellular damage. So chemotherapy can cause lingering damage to healthy cells, including those in muscles, nerves, and organs, which leads to reduced energy production or efficiency. The mitochondrial dysfunction. Some studies suggest that chemo drugs may impair mitochondria, the powerhouse of cells, reducing the body's ability to generate energy. Now, in the mitochondria, the respiratory system of the mitochondria, you have a mix of oxygen and carbon. Okay, you get oxygen from breathing, obviously, and the carbon's your food. When those two combine in the respiratory in the respiratory factory of the mitochondria, you produce ATP, which is energy. Okay. Now, after chemotherapy, you get far less efficient at doing this. It also produces EZ water and also CO2, and then eventually after that CO2 circulates through the body and helps the oxygen uptake in your blood to healthy cells, you then breathe it out. Okay, so there's a real dysfunction in the mitochondrial health after chemotherapy that lasts years later. Bone marrow suppression. Even after recovery, subtle changes in blood cell production, can cause anemia, which from reduced red blood cells, and cause fatigue. Now, ever since my chemotherapies, my platelets and red blood cells and white blood cell count have always been low, always. Okay, so that leads to quite heavy fatigue. Number two, hormonal changes. Okay, so chemotherapy can affect hormone-producing organs, the ovaries, testes, thyroid, leading to imbalances like low testosterone, estrogen, or thyroid hormones, all of which regulate energy levels. For example, early menopause in women or hypogonadism in men can result from treatment and contribute to exhaustion. So chemotherapy also attacks not just the cancer stem cells, but the enzymes that are shared by these cancer stem cells and your organs. So, and there are other hormone-producing organs in your body, such as the kidney produces EPO, for example, or the liver produces your testosterone, your D3 hormone as well, and IGF hormone. So these are all affected by chemotherapy, which are also immune response and energy producing hormones. Number three is chronic inflammation. Now, cancer and its treatments can trigger long-term inflammation, which may sap energy by keeping the immune system in a chronic overactive state. Like I said before, D3, part of your immune system, is a hormone produced in cholesterol from your liver, And if that's impacted, that's going to impact your immune system along with other things as well. Number 4 is nutritional deficiencies. Now, like I said before, this doesn't necessarily mean that you have a poor diet. It's just that chemotherapy does a lot of damage to your digestive tract, your stomach, the lining. I know for myself, after the chemotherapy or after the transplant, I had many layers of skin coming up from my stomach, esophagus, and passing through my digestive tract. Now that, along with the enzymes that are attacked by chemotherapy as well, will stop the absorption of, or block the absorption of, nutrients that you get from your diet. Okay, and this will last long term. It takes time for this to heal. So you're going to have deficiencies in iron, B12, D, and these are some other very big reasons for fatigue. And also for repairing and recovering. So there's also appetite changes, changes to your metabolism. Some people just do not want to eat food or much food after chemotherapy. They tend to lose their appetite a lot, which will also affect your energy production. Okay, number 5, sleep disturbances. Now, insomnia, night sweats, or disrupted sleeping patterns happens all the time after chemotherapy. Sometimes, lingering stress or pain or side effects from the drugs. Now, sleep is a big thing for everyone. It's not just for cancer patients, but sleep is extremely important for cancer patients. Now, this is obviously going to prevent recovery and lead to chronic tiredness and fatigue. I do have a video, 10 tips to help you sleep. I suggest go have a look at that, because there are things that you can put in place to help you with your sleeping patterns. Number 6 is psychological factors. Depression and anxiety are quite common. It takes a very emotional toll on people to be diagnosed with cancer and then to go through treatments. Very many people also suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, which also leads to chronic fatigue, and it just drains their energy. Now, I think this kind of goes hand in hand with some of it. I don't think it's just because they were diagnosed with cancer. I think it's also because of the treatments themselves. Being tired all the time is very depressing in itself. So when you have chronic fatigue all the time, that in itself can lead to depression, anxiety, and so on. Number 7, cardiovascular and other organ damage. Okay, certain chemo drugs like anthracyclines can cause lasting heart and lung damage. Now, that's going to reduce oxygen delivery to tissue and to other cells, making physical activity very tiring. Also, kidney and liver dysfunction from treatment toxicity will hinder energy metabolism. Now, like I said before, when chemotherapy drugs are used, they target everything, including your organs, and that's where you get all your hormone production and energy metabolism. Okay, so that's a very big cause of fatigue after chemo, and this will last for years, and maybe for the rest of your life, depending on the situation. Okay, number 8, they actually have a name for this. It's called CRF. It's called cancer-related fatigue. Okay, this is a well-documented syndrome. Okay, just like chronic fatigue. All right, that can persist for years post-treatment. Now, they say they don't know exactly what causes it or fully understand it, but it likely involves a mix of inflammation, cellular damage, and stress. Number 9 is deconditioning. Now, of course, if you are not exercising, you are losing muscle tissue. But when you have cancer or when you go through treatments, you lose it a lot faster. Okay, so you're going to suffer from deconditioning. When you have finished your treatments, you've lost bone tissue and muscle tissue, and you're feeling very weak. So it's going to take a lot more effort to do things that you would normally do, even just normal household chores. Okay, but this is something that can be addressed with the proper diet and exercise later on. Number 10, medications and comorbidities. Now, ongoing medications, like it can be for pain, nausea, recurrence prevention, might have fatigue as a side effect. I know that after many treatments, there are what they call prevention medications that will leave you fatigued, such as rituximab and other treatments as well. So these treatments will have that side effect. Other health conditions, like comorbidities, like diabetes or arthritis that develop or worsen post-treatment, can compound fatigue as well. Number 11, late effects of radiation or surgery. Okay. Now, if combined with chemo, radiation or surgical scars, for example, lymph nodes, might impair circulation or cause chronic pain, and this indirectly can lower your energy production. See, we are built to move, and things that rely on circulation, like your blood from the lower limbs back up to the rest of your body, up to your heart, relies on circulation, muscle movement, and circulation of your lymphatic system, the lymph fluid, nutrients that you need for hormones and things like that will rely on muscle contraction as the pump to push that fluid around the body. So it relies on circulation. So this can be impaired if you have lost lymph nodes, for example, or have scars, deep tissue scars from surgery and so on. Okay, so let's look a little deeper into a few of these, shall we? Now, additionally, insights on chemotherapy and DNA changes. 1, oxidative stress and persistent DNA damage. What's new? Well, beyond direct DNA breaks, chemo generates reactive oxygen species, they call it ROS, because unstable molecules that bounce around, okay, oxidizing DNA bases, okay, turning guanine into 8-oxoguanine. This oxidative stress can outlast treatment. A 2024 study in free radical biology and medicine found elevated ROS markers in chemo survivors up to 7 years post-treatment, with DNA adducts, like chemical tags, still detectable in white cells. The heavy dose angle. Now this interests me because I did particularly heavy dose chemotherapies for 3 years. So intense chemotherapy like I did, okay, likely ramped up this oxidative load, overwhelming antioxidant defenses like glutathione. Unrepaired oxidative damage might accumulate to slow dividing cells like neurons and cardiac tissue. I was AFib after my stem cell transplant, so this was damage that lasted years actually. Subtly altering gene expression tied to energy metabolism. So again, this does alter gene expression and DNA. The fatigue link, like ROS damage, mitochondrial damage, DNA could repair the electron transport chain, slashing ATP, which is your cellular energy currency. Where that links to fatigue is ROS damage. Mitochondrial DNA could impair the electron transport chain, which slashes the ATP production, which makes the energy production from food or wherever else you get it less efficient. Okay, so that would make long-term fatigue. 2, clonal hematopoiesis. Okay, and stem cell DNA changes. What is this? Well, chemo can leave a legacy in blood stem cells of indeterminate potential. Okay, and they're called CHIP. Okay, where a small population of mutated cells dominates blood production. Okay, a 2023 Blood Journal study linked CHIP to prior chemo exposure, especially alkylating agents and platinum drugs, with mutations in genes. The scope of this, well, this isn't a body-wide DNA rewrite. It's confined to blood lineages. Okay, prevalence rises with intense regimes, of course. So the more intense the treatment, then obviously the more damage is going to be done. So CHIP's seen in 10 to 20% of survivors. The implications of these mutated clones might churn out slightly dysfunctional blood cells, so contributing to inflammation or anemia, both fatigue drivers. All right. Plus, CHIPs are a known risk factor for secondary leukemias. Okay, though that's rare, 1 to 5% per maybe. Okay, speculation. Well, could heavy dose survivors have microchip changes undetectable by current tests, subtly taxing the system? Well, research is ongoing, but the consensus is maybe. Maybe. Transposable elements and genomic instability. Now, there's an emerging idea that chemo might awaken jumping genes. Okay, transposable elements. Okay, they call them TEs. Bits of DNA that can move around the genome. All right, normally silenced by epigenetic controls. Stress like chemo could loosen that grip. Like a 2024 Nature Genetics paper found increased TE activity in chemo-treated cell lines, hinting at genomic instability in survivors. The mechanism for this, drugs like doxorubicin disrupt DNA repair, potentially letting TEs hop into new spots, altering nearby gene function. This could be like after prolonged exposure, it might have amplified this chaos a bit. Like for me, I did 3 years of this stuff, so the likelihood is quite high. Relevance: if TEs mess with energy-related genes, like in mitochondria or muscle cells, it's a piece of the puzzle that could also cause fatigue. Microbiome and DNA crosstalk. That chemo ravages the gut microbiome, and the gut bacteria influence DNA stability indirectly. A 2023 gut microbe study showed that dysbiosis, an imbalance of gut flora, post-chemo increased systemic inflammation and oxidative stress, amplifying DNA damage in distant tissues. I did like 3 years of heavy dose, and after the transplant, my gut microbiome was destroyed, and I had layers and layers of skin coming out. So this can reshape your microbiome long term, reducing the beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, which are fuel for your cells. This might stress DNA repair pathways, leaving subtle marks. So fatigue tie-in, again, inflammation from leaky gut could drive epigenetic changes in the immune cells, keeping you in a low energy state. Probiotics or fecal transplants are being trialed at the moment to reverse this, but early days, but promising. This is one of the reasons why, after I had so much chemotherapy, IBS was a very big problem for me. I had severe IBS. One thing that I found that really helped was sauerkraut. Okay, it's cabbage fermented in salt. Salt is very good for your gut microbiome and for your sinuses and other things. But also my current diet, which you will see I speak a lot about on my channel already. Number 5, the senescence associated secretory phenotype, SASP. Okay, so a slightly deeper dive. Like chemo-induced senescence cells that stop dividing but don't die. Okay, creates a SASP, where these zombie cells spew inflammatory factors. Okay, so you have these little zombie cells floating around the body because they're not getting expelled, and they cause a lot of inflammation, and this can be chronic inflammation that will last years later. Okay, yeah, and DNA damaging ROS at ROS again. A 2024 aging cell study found SASP signatures in chemo survivors' tissues. Okay, so muscle, fat, and so on, years later. Okay, sapping energy via cytokine storms and metabolic drag. Okay, adding another layer to this, like, does chemotherapy change DNA more than they thought? Beyond breaks and epigenetics, it unleashes oxidative stress, reactive oxygen hammering DNA bases. Lingering years later, studies from 2024 suggest that this is an ongoing sort of thing. Blood stem cells might carry mutations, a condition called CHIP. Okay, this tweaks your blood production. Like I said, yeah, it reduces your body's ability to produce red and white blood cells, and like from bone marrow and other things, which will leave you fatigued. You'll have anemic and other sorts of problems as well. But we've already spoken about that. So these are more likely after heavy dose treatments like I did. Jumping genes could stir genomic chaos, and a wrecked gut microbiome might amplify DNA stress indirectly. Senescent cells, like zombie cells from chemo, spew inflammation, carrying damaged DNA that drags you down. Specific drugs leave unique scars, alkylating agents like platinum, and whatever hit you, Okay, so my final thoughts on this is that there's not a lot of evidence out there to support chemotherapy rewriting your entire genome, but it leaves a constellation of DNA-related changes, damage, epigenetic tweaks, telomere loss, oxidative scars, and cellular quirks that evolve over time. Okay, for someone with intense history of chemotherapy, like myself, these could stack up really, really rapidly, hitting energy the hardest. But there are things that help. For one, these Cerule products that I use, such as the Stem Enhance Ultra, they are specifically aimed at releasing more healthy stem cells and prolonging the length and health of the telomeres on the end of each stem cell. Now, I have a couple of videos talking specifically about these Cerule products, so I'll leave a link in the description, but please go have a look at them because they are very important, especially if you are going through these problems. The plasma flow is aimed at obviously increasing blood flow, and it also helps to clear out all dead cells, okay, which is one of the big problems of after chemotherapy. You have those little zombie cells floating around that cause a lot of trouble. And the next one is Cyactive. Now, the Cyactive is also an anti-inflammatory. There's a lot of research behind these products that I use. You can see more on my Cerule specific videos. There's also a lot of research that you can read on the website. I've got the website on the screen now, at dcfit.cerule.com. And there are also links below that I'll leave in the description for you to have a look at yourself. But there are other things that we can do to help help all of these problems. So in my next video, I'll show you the 8 habits that saved my life and help fight these post-chemo conditions, okay, and help me, and are now still helping me to recover and to live a normal, healthy life. Now, if you found that content useful, please give a like, subscribe, and even share it. Don't forget to hit that little bell so you get notifications to see future videos. See ya.